Hi everyone, it's Tina and welcome back to my channel where I ask you to picture financial freedom and we talk about ways to get there. If you're new, hit that subscribe button, and if you're coming back, thank you so much for watching. In my prior video, I discussed the points of consideration they should have when they're making the decision about pursuing a income producing real estate or investment property, rental property, as part of their financial strategy. And this video is for those of you who've decided, yes, that is going to be part of your strategy. And as a matter of fact, I'm on the cusp of purchasing one now, and I need to know, what am I going to do to find tenants? Here are some quick things that we did to A, get both sides of our duplex rented within 1 week of posting it, and then B, things that we did to screen the tenant so that we felt confident we were putting a person in the property that would be a reliable or dependable tenant. One of the decisions that we made early on with the rental property that I know will not be for everyone is that we decided to permit pets. The reason that we decided to permit pets, and specifically dogs and medium to large dogs, we stated 65 pounds or smaller, is because we have 2 times in our lives moved cross country requiring to stay in a rental with a pet. It is very difficult to find a property that permits dogs, especially dogs greater than 35 pounds. Even cats can be prohibited in many properties. Because this was a hardship that we faced on multiple occasions, we decided that we were going to permit pets. We did create a separate pet application that's part of our application process and do require not a pet deposit, but we require extra money every month as part of your rent per pet. We charge $35 per pet per month extra in rent. That means that if the rent was $500 a month and you had 2 pets, your rent would really be $570 per month. We structured it like this so that we wouldn't have to worry about returning a pet deposit down the way, because truth be told, the likelihood of the pet causing damage or even superficial style damage, wear and tear on the property, is pretty clearly going to happen. So we decided it suits us instead to charge that additional rent up front versus having to do a repair and then return a portion of the deposit, and versus having to just hold that deposit and return it anyway once the tenants depart. That decision, I believe, really aided us, especially since we have a fenced backyard and there is a fenced, so the entire backyard for the duplex is fenced with 6-foot privacy fence, but then on top of that, there's a 4-foot divider in between the two duplex yards. So the yard is split down the middle, so each tenant has space for their own pets. Both of our tenants are pet owners. One household has 2 dogs and one household has 1 dog. So undoubtedly, they were very quick to let us know that finding a place that permitted dogs and had a fenced backyard was highly desirable and allowed us to upcharge on our rent compared to the tenants or the rental properties on our street. As a matter of fact, I would tell you that when we rented the place out, I was very nervous because we were charging $200, I want to say, dollars more than the tenants or the other rental properties on our street per month in rent. It still didn't matter. We ended up renting out so quickly. As a matter of fact, because of us, I later found out that the other landlords on the street increased their rent when their leases were up on those properties. That being said, that was a driver for why we were able to rent it so quickly, but what I really wanted to get to in this video is talk about how we screened our tenants. There's really 4 steps that we took. The first step was to have them go through the Zillow screening process. So they had a background check done and a credit check done through Zillow. We advertised the property on Zillow, so it made it very easy for us to then ask them to fill out that application. And at the time, I believe the application was $35. We didn't get that money. They paid Zillow $35. We provided the tenants our business email address, and then Zillow sent us the results of the screening. We didn't have any hard and fast rules on what a minimum credit score would need to be for our tenants. We figured people come into hard times, and what we cared mostly about was understanding their overall financial picture. So we created an application, and in that application, so this is step 2, we required them to do a written application for us that communicated to us things like their financial well-being, their financial situation, so all of their debts and what their minimum payments were. It might seem really invasive, and people can be uncomfortable asking this, but as a landlord, you need to know how much money does your tenant or potential tenant owe out to all these other people, including like their car payment, their any student loan payments they might have, credit card debt they may have, because they may or may not really be able to afford your rent, and you don't want to set somebody up for failure or set yourself up for having to deal with a late payer or potentially somebody you need to evict. In that application, we also asked for referrals, both for their employer and for their prior landlord. So I'll get to that in a minute. The application also, as I mentioned previously, had a pet application component and agreement from them that they would align with certain limitations that we had. So if the pet ever was aggressive or bit somebody on the property, they would take over full liability for that, and they would recognize that they had from that point on 30 days to get that animal off of our property. Luckily, we've never had anything like that happen, but we wanted to make it very clear that if your pet has aggressive tendencies, they're not welcome in our property. In conjunction with the application, we required to see 2 pay stubs, so pay stubs for 2 pay periods, as well as their driver's license. Obviously, the driver's license is a form of authenticating who they are, and the pay stubs is to validate for us what their biweekly or monthly income is, depending on the frequency of their pay. And then, as I mentioned before, in the application, we required that they give us referrals for employment and referrals for their prior landlords. We absolutely took the time to call every single referral. Luckily, in our situation, the tenants that contacted us first were the ones that got all of this paperwork done. We called their prior landlords and we called their employers. Everybody got back to us and it went swimmingly, and we have been so tremendously lucky. What a lot of landlords do that we thought was brilliant was they do an open house on the property. Say they have it open on a Saturday from noon to 4. That way people can come and see, they can decide whether or not they really want to submit an application on the place. And you can take written applications right there and then, have your phone ready to snap photos of people's driver's license, and if they have their pay stubs, capture that information too. That way, you could actually thumb through a lot of the handwritten applications and then contact the ones that look the most desirable to you and have them go through the formal background check process. This would give you a chance to have more people look at the property, and then you could select the person based on the information that you're provided in the application. I really thought this was a brilliant idea, and I also thought it was noteworthy that many of these more longer standing landlords actually recommended this, because then you would have an opportunity before the application or the background check submission goes in to see how the person carries themselves, to see if they have any shady behavior, to see if what the condition of their car is. I mean, if a person's car looks like a driving death trap, there's a good chance they're not going to take care of your property. Comparably, after we already accepted the applications and took our tenants in, once we went and met them afterwards, got their, reviewed the lease with them in person, went through every line of the lease, make sure they understood, had them initial it, had them go through the walkthrough to write down the condition of the property. We did all of that too. But when we were there meeting them in person, you could see that their cars were really well maintained. They looked very well dressed. They just carried themselves with pride and ownership of who they are as a person and in their vehicle. So needless to say, they're treating our property very well. And I'll be honest, I loathe the day that either one of them gives their notice that they're looking to move out. So you guys, those are the 4 things that we did in order to screen our tenants, along with a little bit of extra insight that we figured out after the fact that we will definitely apply when one of these properties or rental units opens back up. I hope this is helpful to you, and have a great day. I will see you in the next video.